Number 10, Super Mario vs. Sonic. This one starts off with an anonymous user who had just finished playing Mario vs. Sonic at the Olympic Games, and decided to switch to some classic Mario. As normal, they started playing the World 1-1, and made it about halfway through before pausing to get a drink. When he comes back, Tails comes flying down and cuts off Mario's head. The music gets slower and lower pitched as he gets the game over screen. He reloads and tried again. He makes it all the way to the end, where Knuckles emerges from the castle and proceeds to pound Mario to a pulp. The screen flashes red with text that reads, "Sonic is the infernal demon of hell and will dominate the world. He will kill Mario." After hours of trying to beat the Sonic Scourge, the author makes it to World 8-4, where they're due to fight Bowser. But instead of Bowser, it's Sonic. The author manages to dodge some hits, but Sonic is too fast and blasts Mario's body away from his head, pulverizing it. The game gives the author a game over screen depicting Mario's head on a spike and Sonic laughing behind it. Number 9, Super Mario Galaxy. The user Creepo from creepypasta.org has always been a big Nintendo fan. They had every console and never used an emulator and would always buy the real game. About a year before writing, the author really wanted to play Super Mario Galaxy, but couldn't find his copy. So they started going to a local GameStop to get a new one. As they were walking, however, they see a shine in the trash can. They look inside and it's a copy of Super Mario Galaxy. Oh my god, they didn't find it at a garage sale. What? The author grabs the cartridge and goes home and proceeds to put it in. However, they notice a tab at the bottom. They pull it and inside of the cartridge was a disc. They put it into their Wii and the game starts off laggy. The game freezes and crashes and then an error code pops up saying insert the disc into a PC. The author does so and starts getting weird messages like, how did you find this? This was only for one person and this disc is just a test. There were somehow files in it with a text document that said I'm spying on you and an audio file saying dispose of me. Someone knocked on the door. The author didn't move. They knocked again, harder, still nothing. This time they knocked the door in. They were wearing a mask. The author ran to hide, being very noisy as they did so. The intruder came around looking, but the author had a spurt of courage and punched him in the back of the head. But their skin was made of what felt like metal. A Rosalina popped up on the TV screaming and the intruder's head turned 180 degrees. The next thing they knew, the author was just in a deep sleep. Was he dead? I don't know. Number 8, Mario says the F word. One night, Ed Boys from Game FAQs was playing Mario 64, playing through the game and currently traveling through the Dire Docks, going through his usual business. When all of a sudden, Mario sharply turns his head 40 degrees and looks at the screen. With a creepy smile on his face, he says, in a typical Mario voice, "Shh, ah, f***." Just as the author's mother comes into the room, she shouts asking if the author is swearing. The author obviously responds with, "It was Mario, not me." Then the author's mother decided to grab him by the ear, throw him onto the ground, and then proceeded to jump on the author's face. As the author puts it, she did the ground pound. She swung the author around by the hair and shouted, "So long, Bowser." Ah, is right. What the actual hell is going on? Goddamn. What is this? Number 7, Maluigi. When Kaser and Star from itsjerryandharry.com wanted to test out a complex level he made in Mario Maker, he found an odd power-up, a mushroom that was tall and thin with a round base. He picked it up and the character of Mario warped into something unsettling. He was tall and thin with long legs like Waluigi. He also moved as if he was sneaking around with a hunched back and arms in front of him. This. At one point the camera stopped following Mario and he just walked off screen. When he did, the level restarted, but Mario wasn't there anymore. It was just the level. He didn't know what to do, so he turned off the game and went to sleep, chalking it up to a glitch. However, when a high-pitched creak woke him up in the morning, he looked at his window and a tall figure was climbing in. When he noticed, the figure hurried back outside, and when the author looked down, he was creeping away, hunched back and arms in front. This. When he loaded the game in the morning, Mario was back, and he never saw that weird mushroom again. It's a me, Creepio! Number 6, Super Mario Odyssey. User Lamborghini Bottle on Reddit claims this to be a true story, but is it? He and his brother had decided to play Mario Odyssey together, so they ran to their GameStop. They rummaged through the played games and picked the first one they saw, giving the cashier the money and sprinting back home. The cover seemed normal, except for the extra D in the title, but they misprint things all the time. They put in the game and when it loaded, the icon was strange too. The title was misspelt and Mario's eyes were yellow, his teeth were red, and he was holding a knife towards Luigi. They played the game because they think they're rebels, and soon regretted their decision. When they loaded, the game background had changed to pictures of their family. They tried to turn off the TV, but it didn't work. The switch wouldn't turn off and the cartridge wouldn't come out. They had no other option but to load a save that had 666 moons. The background changed again to Mario killing Luigi, and then the save loaded. The instant it did, Mario began to move. The Mario falls through the ground and lands on a toad, killing it. Mario threw Cappy at the camera and it came out of the screen. The cat managed to grab the author's brother and pull him into the game. Mario's eyes went red, his teeth went yellow, and his mustache started growing. Mario opened his mouth and said, "See you in hell." God, that's a bad accent. Number 5, the man in the clouds. While the user SpadeClub22 was playing New Super Mario Bros. 2 on his 3DS, he noticed he felt like he was being watched. While in Snowfield Tanuki, he now knows why he got such a feeling. He posted this image online with his post, and if you look between the trees and the clouds, there appears to be a face of a man. The whole level had this man, and when he finished the level, the clouds left. When he woke up the next day and went to work, while waiting for a bus on the way home, he saw something he wished he hadn't. The face from the snowfield. That is one creepy face. Clouds, man. They're weird. Number 4, Smokin' Toad. The Mushroom Kingdom is a messed up place. This anonymous Reddit user was looking into how things in the Mushroom Kingdom worked when he noticed that toads go missing quite a lot. The times they go missing also seem to pair with when Mario comes to town. Not because the toads are cursed or turned into brick blocks, but because toads are a drug. The author was playing Super Mario 3D World on the 3DS when he noticed Mario's eyes particularly red. They were bloodshot and almost looked like they were throbbing. When the level was complete, it was gone, and when he returned to the main hub, he went to the washroom. When the author came back, Mario's eyes were red again, and the worst thing was about to come. A toad came running in the background with part of its head missing, grabbing at it and crying as it ran. Mario looked at the toad, then looked at the camera, and just smiled. Number 3, Otherworldly. Mario does not like to be played in other games that aren't Mario. The practicality of using homemade assets to create a Mario-like atmosphere in a game like Roblox is, in Mario's mind, a sin. Reddit user 2for1dolls claims that he had just finished creating a Mario-like world in Roblox, where you had different worlds and parkour challenges, and would always return to a central hub. You got the choice of player model too, one of these being Mario. When the author chose the Mario player model, they lost all control of their character. They would walk around as if inspecting, and chat messages would appear from the user, but they weren't typing. Eventually, the character model turned to look at the camera and its eyes went red. The whole level started burning, then the author's laptop caught fire, melting the keys and the screen. The whole time, he heard Mario laughing. An actual Mario laugh, not the typical Roblox "ooh." Penultimately, at number 2, Why Not Me? For a while, Sacred Fire on Azuroland.com was skeptical of any creepypastas, but after their encounter with Super Mario Bros. 2, they have a whole different outlook on them. The author loaded up Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES and played Super Mario. They chose Toad and began the game. However, Luigi did something odd. The camera zoomed in on his face and Luigi said, "Why not me?" The author thought it was a joke or something, an Easter egg after playing the game so many times, so they continued on. They jumped down the mountain, but they couldn't open the door. The TV flashed black and Luigi appeared again, saying the same thing. Why not me? The door opened, but after the boss battle, Luigi appeared once more and said, "Why not me?" again. After this, the author said screw that and went to bed. When they woke up, they decided to give it another chance. He played as Peach this time and the author's roommate gave him hell for it. Luigi would pop up every time he fought a boss. And at around 3 PM, the author went to do homework. He finishes at 9 PM, and when he did, his roommate came home. He entered wearing a Luigi costume and brandishing a knife. The author called the cops, but when they got there, the roommate turned around, looked at the author, and stabbed himself. What's really haunting about this whole ordeal are his last words. Why not me? Finally, taking our number 1 spot, jealousy. There was a meme going around recently from Mario Tennis Aces. Said the user praised Luigi the Lord on Reddit. I'm sure we all know about Luigi's bulge and how things escalate when the internet grabs a hold. Well, as it turns out, Mario escalates things too. After a match between Mario and Luigi in Mario Tennis Aces, a cutscene started with Mario congratulating Luigi on his win. Then the scene cuts to night, with Luigi sleeping in his bed. Mario sneaks in and shine comes from his hand. He climbs into Luigi's bed and the camera pans up. The shadows show Mario holding a knife, and the author hears Luigi scream as Mario presses the knife into him. And what Mario pulls up is an odd shape, but what looks to be Luigi's floppy forearm, maybe? Yeah. Sure. Number 10, see you next time. This creepypasta comes from American Titan on the Creepypasta fandom page, and is from the point of view of Brad. Brad is a major video game fan, especially for Nintendo, but when his grades started to dip, his parents took away his N64 and hid it in the attic. Eventually, after his grades got up, his parents had forgotten all about the console and told Brad to sell all of his games. He did, and life went on, be it slightly more boring. One day he was visiting his parents and his father asked him to get something from the attic. When he did, he found his old N64. as good as ever and with a special blue color on it. He went to his local Oogie Games to get his favorite N64 game, Mario Kart. The used versions were $32 and Brad took the first one on the shelf. There was a name scrawled on the cartridge in gray marker that said Satan, but not Satan, Satin. It's weird. But Brad didn't seem to be bothered. He ran home and set up the console to play his favorite game. As he made it to lap 3 on Rainbow Road in time trials, the music had stopped, the chain chomps were hurling red shells specifically targeting Brad. Brad went to quit the game, but an odd message appeared, saying, "You killed him. There's no way out of this, Brad." As Brad ran to turn off the console, he heard Mario saying, "See you next time." As the console turned off, a loud high-pitched screeching sent Brad flying across the room, instantly killing him. Guess there's not a next time. Number 9, the Death Shell. This anonymous user on the Creepypasta fandom page loved every Mario Kart game, and was only missing Mario Kart for the DS. But he didn't have the money. There was an event near where the user lived, so he went to go check it out and maybe get some free food, cause I mean honestly. But as they did, they stepped on something. A black Nintendo DS with Mario Kart DS. The user took the DS and the game home, even though the screen had a bit of a crack in the middle. After getting back home, the user threw the game in their DS and started to play. The icon for the game had Mario's face, but with no eyes. Just holes. He thought it was a glitch, because it always is, right? And started the game. After about a half hour of playing, the user was in 7th place and had gotten a blue shell, the one that destroys friendships. But this one wasn't blue. It was black. Thinking it was an exclusive item to the game, he threw it and it shot straight for Mario at first place. The shell just dove at him without even circling, and the user heard horrific screams. As they passed Mario, he was laying on the ground with spikes in his chest, bleeding slowly. His skin was melted and some of his muscles were exposed. Yikes. Number 8, He Wants. Another unknown user from the Creepypasta fandom page had a friend over to stay the night. After watching some YouTube and TV, they decided to play some Mario Kart Wii. Her friend had brought it over and she had gotten it off of eBay a few days prior. The opening cutscene started, and Mario and Luigi had their car battle, but Mario's eyes were red and looked angry. His steering wheel and gloves were covered in blood. Luigi looked scared, pale, with blood on his face and an open wound. The user and her friend looked at each other in horror. They thought it was hacked and wondered what else could be wrong with the game. When the menu appeared, there was an option for Death Race, and they obviously picked it and played with 50cc. All of the characters looked sad. Mario had a D instead of an M on his hat, and his gloves were covered in blood. They picked Yoshi, and he had his mouth sewn shut. As they played through the race, all other racers had red eyes, and they stared at the screen, not at the player. They fell off the map but kept falling until they were in a white room. Luigi approached and told them that they won, but that someone wanted their throne back. The D on the hat stood for death, and he wants you to die. In at number 7, Lakitu. From user RG8388 on the Scratch forums, he said that he had gotten Super Mario Kart from GameStop after being challenged by a friend to a race. He was told the game was haunted but chalked it up to some sales tactic. He thought the game belonged to a child because the title had been crossed out and in its place was Tutul Evil, spelled TUTULYVL. They put the game in their SNES and started playing. The title screen said Lakitu and he was hovering at the title screen. Since everything like this is a hack, they kept going. Lakitu had a smile with fangs. In character selection, everyone was crying, even Bowser. The user picked him and went to the track. When Lakitu came out with the lights, the whole crowd of racers yelled, "Go away, you're mean!" As the player started to drive, Lakitu followed, with an odd grin on his face. He bumped the player into lava and didn't come to save him. You could see Bowser's flesh melting off. Text appeared that said, "Now for the others." And then the game shut off. Number 6, Luigi's Betrayal. StarFoxGuy64 from Booksy.com was playing Mario Kart Double Dash that he had gotten earlier that day with his father. He had some odd experiences already, a Luigi controller shutting the power off in the whole house for an hour, and the custom controllers he had gotten with the game, the Luigi one being one of them. He was playing as Mario in the All Cup Tour and had won most of the races except for Rainbow Road. While playing on Rainbow Road, Luigi was the only other racer, and had gotten a giant mushroom. But instead of using it on himself, however, he threw it into the engine of the user's cart, sending them flying into the lava below. Why was there lava under Rainbow Road? Lakitu grabbed Mario out of his cart and brought him back up. Luigi came and picked up Mario. Mario had somehow been stabbed several times. Luigi held him over the side laughing as he got soaked in blood. Luigi let him go and laughed as he fell into the lava. No Lakitu to save him this time. Hopefully I'm saying Lakitu right. Halfway through at number 5, Escape Cup. No Game Comic from the AminoApps.com website was tired of playing Mario Kart 8 since it had gotten boring. After beating the Star Cup for the 16th time, they got a message saying that they had unlocked the Escape Cup. Excited to try something new, they instantly hopped on the opportunity. The only character they could race with was their Mii, so they did. Once everything had loaded, they got a message. You have just entered the Escape Cup. You can only get out when you win. First map was Rainbow Road and the user won. They played and got to the second last map, which looked similar to Luigi's Mansion in a way, giving off similar vibes. Ghost chasing the player, and every time he got caught, he would need to restart at lap 1. He was racing alone however, so he was always in first. As if the challenge was to complete the map. He did and made it to the final map, which was a combination of everything he had seen before. It was only one lap, and the ground would break behind you as you went through the race. The console wouldn't turn off this whole time, and it was as if he couldn't move. Like he didn't want to, but he knew he did. He finished the race and he got a message saying congratulations, you managed to escape. And then his console restarted, and the cup was gone. Play through the cup 16 times to see if this is actually a thing. Let me know in the comments. Do it! Number 4, Luigi's Death Stare. Written by Yo Cow, this creepypasta starts when the user finds himself getting Mario Kart 8 early from a website called don'tbuythingsfromthissite.com. Weird marketing tactic. When they got their game, it was Luigi on the cover instead of Mario, and the game was called Luigi Kart 666. The disc was blank and only had the words Luigi Kart 666 on it. Text on screen appeared saying, "Turn back now, he will get you." The only race was called Hell Cup and consisted of 2 tracks. The only character he could select was Waluigi, and there was only 2 racers in the game, the player and Luigi. As the light turned green, the player model switched to that of the player, but sounded like Waluigi. The user tried desperately to stay away from Luigi, but Luigi was gaining. He got hit with a green shell and Luigi gave his signature stare. But after this, the disc stopped reading, and it was broken in half. Getting close to the end at number 3, Mario Kart Wii. Rob Newcomb on the CFTO website had a brother who had just gotten Mario Kart Wii in 2009. They played until the brother had fallen asleep and the mother brought him upstairs and turned off the Wii. Rob turned it back on, but all the colors were inverted. He loaded the game and started a race on his profile. For some reason, he was the only racer, and he was going oddly slow. Mario looked panicked, and when all of a sudden he got spooked like a chihuahua for no reason and started speeding up. Mario ran into a wall and then the screen went white. A message appeared slowly on screen. It said suicide. Rob screamed and tried to turn off the console, but it kept showing along with the crash he had just seen. The next day he was screamed at for breaking the Wii and nobody would believe his story. Now whenever he looks at a Wii, he can only think one thing: suicide. In at number 2, Kamek Curse. When this unknown user went off to college, they brought their N64 along with Mario Kart, cause what else are you supposed to do instead of homework? When he got some free time, he booted up the game. When getting to the character selection, Donkey Kong had been replaced by Kamek, but he was only in beta. The user chose Wario and played Mushroom Cup. The Luigi Circus sky was red, and the grass was black. After a reboot, instead of the welcoming Mario Kart screen, he got a horrific picture of Kamek and a loud screeching noise. His roommate came in to see what the noise was, and the author just said it was the game. The roommate left, looking more shook than he should have been, and in the middle of the night the author heard screaming coming from his roommate's room. He couldn't get in, but the next morning, he wasn't there. He went to class and asked, and apparently his roommate had died way back in 1997 due to a heart attack while playing Mario Kart. Res would not let you have a room with one person in there, even if the other person was supposedly a ghost. Just saying. And finally, in at number 1, Mario Kart Black. This story starts off with a 17-year-old girl named Sarah explaining her old life and how everything went wrong, especially when her brother died. The Wii console that her brother had gotten came with no games. So they got money to go to a local GameStop. When they got there, they looked through all kinds of games, eventually stumbling onto a rated M Mario game called Mario Kart Black. They took the game to the cashier, but he told them to take it for free and then he ran off. They went home and loaded up the game. When it started, there was a black screen with text that said "Welcome to my world," followed by another that said "Now we can have some fun racing in hell." Blood splattered on the screen while laughing played in the background. The game only had a single player mode, so the brother took the lead. He selected his only option, which was Mario, and later images flashed on the screen, including Mario with bloody eyes. Eventually they lost control of Mario and he drove around a pile of bodies. They found a sign written in blood that said "Turn back." They kept driving and Mario started screaming. Their brother started screaming as well and he got a bat and smashed the Wii. But Sarah saw a shadow, the shadow of Mario. He said, "Say hello to suicide and murder." They screamed and Sarah ran out of the room, but watched as Mario slaughtered her brother with his long, sharp claws.
In at number 10, the haunted save. The following story is based on a creepypasta written by an unknown author on the Creepypasta website. The protagonist begins by saying that he was really bored by all of the video games that he had been playing lately, and just as boredom really struck him, he got a notification on his phone. It was an email with a subject line that read, "Get old bootleg SNES cartridges only in today's e-auction." Intrigued by this, he decided to order one called Bootleg Super Mario World. When he put the cartridge in to play, everything seemed normal, but the hills and clouds had a slight reddish tinge to them. The first time he hopped onto a pipe to go into the next level, Mario just began falling. He kept falling for what felt like forever, and when he finally hit the ground, Bowser was waiting for him at the bottom. Bowser then pulled out a portal gun, shooting the ceiling above him, and before the protagonist could react, hot lava began dumping onto Mario. Mario began making terrible noises, unlike anything that he had ever heard before. Safe to say, he'll never order games online ever again. The following story is based on a creepypasta also written by an unknown user and involves a terrifying encounter with the game Super Mario Legend of the Seven Stars. The strange thing was that when he picked up the cartridge, it was hot. Like really hot. The weird thing about this was he hadn't used the game in months, so he had no idea why the cartridge was so warm. Wanting to play, he just put the game in and continued. To much of his dismay, the title screen was different. Instead it said, Legend of the Seven Screams. Mario seemed upset when he began playing, but he couldn't really figure out why until he realized that Luigi was missing. Then when he opened the overworld map, he noticed something odd about Mushroom Way. It looked like it had been completely destroyed. Parts of the map were charred with the mangled bodies of enemies lying everywhere. He almost threw up at the sight of this apocalyptic scenery. Before he could do anything, this shadowy figure attacked Mario, pushing him into the fire. The game then cut to a memorial service held for Mario. Everyone was there, standing around his grave as they lowered his coffin into the ground, and what he didn't see coming though was Luigi poking his head into the shot with an evil grin on his face, giggling loudly through his speakers as the screen faded to black. In at number 8, the Skeleton Family. The protagonist of this story begins by saying that when they were a little kid they loved playing Super Mario 64. Skip ahead to today, and now as an adult they finally had the ability to buy this old game to hit those nostalgic feels. They purchased the game for next to nothing on eBay, and not too long afterwards the mint condition copy arrived at their home. The game seemed to be in good condition, but what was upsetting was the box. It was just a plain cardboard box with the word Mario written on it, kinda crudely too. And when Mario's face appeared though, he was overjoyed because nothing was more fun with that first screen. You remember that first screen where you get to pull Mario's face in every direction? Well, he pulled one of Mario's ears in one direction, but the second that he tried to do it to the other ear, this loud static noise just blared through his speakers. And when he started the game, he went towards the first painting that you jump through, but was shocked to see that the painting was different. Instead of the usual Bob Ohms in the golden frame, it was Luigi hanging from a noose. He tried to shut off his N64, but it wouldn't turn off. The painting then rapidly started to decay until the only thing left was the skeleton of Luigi. In at number 7, The Hack. The following story is about a Super Mario World hack that you can actually still download. The author of this creepypasta really goes into some intense details of the strange things that were happening to him throughout this hacked version, but let's just sum it up for you. Essentially, he's greeted with cryptic messages that threaten him throughout the game, all while playing as this dulled down version of Mario. The game renames the area as well to Dinosaur Land, which kind of makes us wonder whether or not this was supposed to be the story from Bowser's perspective. Either way, nearing the end of this hack, he rides out most of the game on Yoshi with the new text box telling him that there is no escape from this hell. Little did he know that the game wasn't talking to Mario, it was talking to Yoshi. When finally reaching the end of his route, Yoshi just tossed Mario off his back right into like this black void. He seemed to fall forever, and expecting to land in another level, he just waited, but nothing happened. It was just a black screen. Yoshi had killed Mario. In at number 6, Jim died, bro. In yet another story about purchasing a used copy of a video game, the protagonist in this creepypasta tale buys a copy of Mario for the NES at a flea market. The man selling the game seemed upset. He told the boy that this game once belonged to his son Jim before he passed away. Once home, the protagonist begins playing, but is thrown off upon seeing the text above the green pipe that reads, "Welcome to the scary hell place." When Mario went down the pipe, he swears he heard someone say the words, "No hope." The screen then suddenly faded to black, and just like a classic jump scare, the ghostly face of Princess Peach popped onto the screen. He nearly fell out of his chair from the sight of it. When he reset the game and opened up the last save, the name had been changed. Instead of his name, It just read, "Jim died, bro." In at number 5, it's all your fault. Growing up, the protagonist was a big fan of the Super Mario series, and on his birthday he received a package in the mail. Inside was a used copy of the game with a message attached to it that read, "Do not play." Clearly he ignored this and dove in head first. When the game began, the skies were dark and the music was chilling. As he looked around, he noticed a signpost that read, "Dear Mario, come to the castle, I have something to show you, yours truly, Bowser." The game went into a cutscene then of Bowser sitting in his throne with the heads of Luigi and Peach on both sides of him. The camera then cut to Mario's face as he shouted, "You took everything from me." The camera then turned back to Bowser as he said, "Come face me." The two engaged in a battle unlike anything that he had ever seen before, and when Bowser was finally defeated by Mario, Mario stood beside the lava pit staring deeply into it just in case the monster returned. And suddenly a teardrop fell from Mario's face as he said to himself, "It's all your fault," right before he too leaped into the lava. In at number 4, Mario and the Killer. The following story was written by a user who claimed to be a beta tester for Nintendo, and on his very first day, they gave him a game called Mario and the Killer. He thought this couldn't possibly be real, someone must be pranking him, but everyone said no, it's real, and so he began playing to search for any glitches in the game. And on the title screen was Luigi's face, but it would flash randomly back and forth to an image of Mario with his eyes missing. He was greeted by Peach, but there was something sinister about her too. Peach's teeth seemed sharp, like razor sharp, and her eyes felt like they were devoid of any emotion whatsoever. Out of nowhere, a Goomba approached screaming and running straight at Mario, so the beta tester did what you usually do with Goombas and jumped up into the air and squashed the enemy. Although the animation was much more brutal than anything that he had ever seen. The Goomba splattered everywhere with blood splashing onto Mario's blue pants. Right when he did that, the evil Peach cackled like a witch. He turned the camera towards the castle, only to watch it explode and begin crumbling before his eyes. What a nightmare. This next story also involves someone who purchased a used N64 and Super Mario from a garage sale only for their life to be turned upside down by a video game. Stuck to the side of the console was a sticky note that read, "Do not use the console on any TV or device, it will end in doom." Assuming that this was just a scare tactic by some kid who didn't want their parents to sell it, he tore off the note and started up the game. Right away he knew this game was different. Mario's eyes were a black void and he seemed empty of any emotion, almost like he wasn't even happy to be there. Then, when he entered the Bob-omb level, all of the Goomba's eyes were also missing. Terrified of what might happen next, he unplugged the console and went right back to the home where he purchased this cursed game. On his way there though, everyone he passed was wearing a red Mario hat. Starting to feel like he was going crazy, he approached someone to ask what was with all the red hats, but no one would even look him in the eyes. When he finally yelled "hey" and grabbed someone by the arm, he fell over upon seeing that their eyes were missing. And at that moment he blacked out completely, and when he came to though, he was just sitting on the lawn of where he bought the game in the first place. In at number 2, he's there. One day this gamer had a craving to play some Mario for his N64, although his mom thought that he didn't play games anymore, so had actually tossed out all of his games. In a rage, he went to his local GameStop to purchase a new copy. And obviously this was an older game, so the only choice that he had was to buy a used copy. Although the cashier warned him that he shouldn't play this game, he just kept saying, "He's there, he's there." Ignoring him, he bought the game anyways and continued on his merry way. About an hour later when the game loaded up, something was seriously wrong. Mario's eyes were missing in this one as well, and before he could even play, Mario took control. He began viciously attacking everyone in the game like a zombie, pulling them to shreds and eating their discarded limbs as he went along. The camera then shifted to Bowser's perspective, who was holding Peach tightly in fear as he said, "He's there, he's at the castle doors." Bowser then tossed Peach at Mario as he ran off, and Mario did the same thing to her as everyone else, brutally killing Peach and then sprinting at Bowser shortly after. Bowser was trapped, he had literally nowhere to go, and Mario was foaming at the mouth as he let out the most maniacal laugh you've ever heard. That's when the game just crashed, and the gamer began to feel a sharp pain in his back. He turned to see Mario standing behind him, and a knife sticking out of his back as Mario said, "I told you I'm there." It's a weird story, guys. Last but not least, in our number 1 spot, Super Mario 666. The following story is based on a creepypasta we discovered on Reddit. The protagonist of the story says that recently a home in their neighborhood had mysteriously been destroyed. The newspaper stated that it was an explosion from a gas leak in the house, but who's to say? Unfortunately, no one in the home survived, but One day a friend of his came rushing over to his house saying that he had found something important. His friend was nearly out of breath from sprinting all the way to his home, and he had found something in the rubble of the home that was destroyed. It was a copy of Super Mario 64, although right where the number 64 should be, in place were the numbers 666. They immediately put the game into their old N64 and started playing. The boys were greeted with a signpost that read, "King Bob-omb is dead. Now his legion of followers are lost without purpose, they can only do what they know best." That's when they began to hear this ticking noise. As a Bob-omb walked onto the screen, its eyes were red. It was staring directly at the two boys. The sound began to pick up speed. Tick, 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 tick. That's when they realized that the game was responsible for that mysterious explosion. They sprinted out of their house only for moments later to have history repeat itself, and now his home as well had erupted with flames. The firefighters sorted through the rubble, but the only thing they found still intact was Super Mario 666.
Starting us off in at number 10, Mario. Like many a creepypasta, this internet tale tells the story of a player who stumbled upon a Mario ROM online and decided to try it out. It was titled simply Mario. When the player opened up the ROM on their computer, they were greeted by two files. One was a text file titled with a slew of numbers, and the other was an IPS file titled Mario. When opening the text file, he discovered that it was empty all for a bunch of indistinguishable symbols and seemingly random letters, leading the player to think that perhaps the author of the ROM accidentally tried to copy the game's data into text form. But upon taking a closer look, he was able to decipher the words "Find me," written over and over and over again. Now when starting the game, he knew something was off. Mario, rather than Bowser, was the villain of the game. He decided to continue playing anyway. As he progressed further, strange notes would appear. At first, just a series of random numbers, but later, they contained messages like, "I hate you." Eventually, he arrived to Yoshi's Island 2, only to discover the game looked much different than it should. The colors had changed, and the vegetation in the foreground was no longer present. Now when he freed Yoshi, Yoshi told him that Mario had trapped him inside that egg. That's when things get weird. Message boxes from Yoshi kept appearing as he played, as if the dinosaur was trying to communicate through them. He kept playing. As the levels progressed, they became more and more barren. At one point, he killed Yoshi while trying to jump over falling pits, which prompted the message, "This is the selfish way." Yoshi, now fallen into the depths below, kept communicating with him. Messages like, "Don't you think you've caused enough trouble?" They kept popping up. By the end, he was taken to a small dark room with a pipe. He entered the pipe, which would then reveal Mario on a black screen. He was unable to move or exit the level. That's when the player heard a crash. The video game representation of death. And that's when he connected the dots. The whole game was Mario attempting to atone for his actions and the deaths of others. Now fun fact, this Mario game is actually the basis for a Super Mario World ROM hack that you can download yourself to play, much like the famous Sonic EXE Creepypasta game. Moving on to number 9, Paper Mario Cursed Star. This creepypasta has made the rounds on the interwebs for a while, and has even been criticized by some to be the worst Mario creepypasta out there, and also one of the worst gaming creepypastas out there. But I'll let you guys be the judge. There's two variations of it. The first is that a 15-year-old boy got Paper Mario Sticker Star for Christmas, and after playing the game for a while, he realized that the Toad characters who appear in the game were acting strangely. All of them were stuck, and essentially the game just glitched out and it kind of freaked him out. So you can see why that version is not overly interesting. The other version of the story is that he got the game and the same events occurred, except one of the Toad characters spoke to him and told him that he was dead. Now when the player saved the game and returned to the gameplay, that Toad was covered in something that appeared to be blood. Freaked out, the kid continued to play anyway, but every Toad he came across afterwards had no eyes. This is when he realized that the game must have been some weird hack. The story then goes on to claim that after playing, the player's soul was stuck inside of the card, and that now he can't truly ever die because of it, and is therefore tormented because of his encounter with the Toad character. So thoughts, feelings, garbage, steaming garbage? Up to you guys. Let me know in those comments below. Up next, number 8, Super Mario 128. According to this creepypasta, after Nintendo released Mario 64, they were looking to impress with its follow-up title. The plan was to try to aim for more realistic graphics and violence, much like the kinds of games that were coming out on the original PlayStation system at the time. So in an attempt to make a Mario game that appealed to a wider audience, developers crafted up some test concepts, all of which Mario creator Miyamoto had denied ever existed to this day. This creepypasta follows the efforts of one gamer trying out one of these test concepts, with him claiming to have witnessed some really traumatizing content. During Mario's adventure, all of his friends shun him and desert him in the game. The locations in the game were filled with creepy things like children's skeletons. Bowser, who looked too realistic for their liking, kills Mario at the end by eating him, and the game ends with Mario stuck in purgatory. Yeah, best to let that concept die. And at 7, Why I Will Never Play Another Mario Game. This one comes as a warning from the author. On his 12th birthday, his parents gave him $200 and went away for the weekend, so he decided to go spend it all and play video games all weekend. When he arrived at his local shop, all they had was one game left. It was kinda odd. It was a cartridge with a sticky note on it that read, "Do not under any circumstance sell." No other label. Sure of what it was, the kid decided to pay off the teenage clerk extra money for it. And lo and behold, when he popped it into his N64, it was Super Mario 64. Exactly what he wanted. Everything was normal at first with the title screen and the opening bit with Peach. But when the game itself started, something was off. He thought it may have been some weird knockoff game, which is why it was marked at the shop not to be sold. Peach's letter at the beginning now read, "Dear player, you don't know what you were getting into. Turn off your system now and get help. Yours truly, the previous owner." Too excited to worry about this strange warning, the kid continued to play anyway. Afterwards, he ran to Toad. Toad also had an odd message telling him, "You will die if you continue. Turn off the game or I will kill you." Now the kid figured it was just some weird hacked copy of the game, and his curiosity got the best of him. He continued to play with no issue with any of the levels at all afterwards. But when he finally made it into the castle, the floor fell through and Mario landed onto rock, with the text bubble popping up that read, "Welcome to hell." That's when things started to look really different. Enemies had black eyes, things in the game were glitching, there were endless hallways that seemed to go on forever. As he progressed, he found something terrifying. It was a pixelized picture of a dog, but not any dog. His recently dead pet, Lassie. That's when he heard noises coming outside of his bedroom door. Bolting the door, he panicked and felt that his room was starting to vibrate. He went back to the game, but his TV was now all static. Next thing he knew, he woke up in a hospital bed. Later, he would track down who the previous player of the game was through his game shop. Apparently, it was a boy named Jeff, who had died when his parents found him in his room having strangled himself with the cord of his N64 controller. In at number 6, Mario Kart Purgatory. This one is about a gamer playing Mario Kart. They had finally made it to the final course of the Special Cup, meaning that they were racing on Rainbow Road. Using their favorite character, Toad, they were off to a solid start in the first lap, and managed to make their way to first place. But as they were speeding away on a turn, they were knocked with a red shell, and to their surprise, they were knocked off the course. Now normally under these circumstances, a player would see the animation that lifted them back up and onto the course's road. But this time, no animation came. Toad inside of his cart just kept falling and falling and falling. After a minute of this, the player got frustrated and turned the game off. They rebooted it, hoping that it was a glitch, but to their surprise, every other course in the game was now locked. All they could play was Rainbow Road. So they decided to start the race again. But as soon as the race started, after the countdown, they would automatically appear to be falling below the track once more. Frustrated even more so, they shut off the game. That night, they began having nightmares, seeing Toad falling and falling. But this time, Toad fell through the fiery depths of what appeared to be hell. The player awoke and was unable to fall back asleep. These nightmares persisted, and every time that they tried to play the game again, the same thing would happen. Only Rainbow Road was accessible, and they would continue to fall. After a week of having the same nightmare, they decided to throw out the disc, writing the words "Do not play on it" on Sharpie, since they've never dreamt of Toad falling through hell ever again. Moving on to number 5, the Bowsette Killer. Now, if you're privy to the recent internet sensation that is Bowsette, you'll probably get a kick out of this one. And if you aren't, you should probably check out our top 10 video on Bowsette facts after this. It's a hoot. Anyway, this story is about a fellow who had a particular interest in Bowsette. Now, Bowsette is a bit odd to some. She's essentially an amalgamation of Peach and Bowser, with Bowser using a special crown mechanic in the game to transform into a Peachified version. I mean, technically it's not in the game, but it's sort of in theory and based off of a crown that's in the games, but hey. This fellow, our protagonist, was really into Bowsette. And I mean like really into her. He would get his rocks off by checking out Bowsette fan art, reading Bowsette fanfiction, and watching the videos that cosplayer Jessica Negri posted of herself dressed up as Bowsette. So yeah, you know where this is going. After one particular hands-on session of appreciating Bowsette, our protagonist went out in the middle of the night to a nearby 7-Eleven to get some grub. On his way home, he chose to cut through a nearby alley to get back quicker. As he was walking down the alley, he heard a crashing noise by the dumpster behind him. So he turned around. Standing there in the dark, he saw a silhouette of a woman, but not just any woman. A woman who looked a lot like Bowsette. Astonished, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him, until he realized that she had a dripping knife in her hand. Then, before he could realize what was happening, she was racing towards him, the knife raised. He panicked and began to run, but the figure kept chasing him. Finally, he got to his house, ran through the door, and locked it. Breathing hard, he looked through his peephole but saw nothing. The next day, he told all of his friends what happened, but they all mocked him, calling him a wanker. He was humiliated, but he knew what he saw was real. Later that night, when he went home, he turned on the news to see a report about a serial killer. A woman who ran around in the middle of the night dressed as a dominatrix who killed unsuspecting men with a knife. Now, it may not have been Bowsette, but he almost did lose his life. At least it, wasn't actually a Bowsette. That's the real horror story here. Up next, number 4, The Haunted Save. The Haunted Save tells the tale of a bored gamer who had developed a New Year's resolution of playing through all of their unfinished video games. And since they had succeeded in doing so, they were out of games to play. That's when they got an email. The subject of the email read, "Get old bootleg SNES cartridges, only in today's e-auction." Well, hello, opportunity knocking. They hit up the e-auction and managed to win a copy of a bootleg Super Mario World. 2 weeks later, the game arrived in the mail. Weirdly enough, the cartridge's label was half torn off, with the only visible letters being U, E, R, M, R, and D. Thinking nothing of it, they popped the cartridge into their system and began to play. Everything looked normal at first, as is the case with every creepypasta. And there was still a save file on the cartridge, titled Save File 1. So they decided to take a look. It opened on the level in which Yoshi first appears. The level looked kinda odd though, different than they remembered Super Mario World appearing. That's when they happened upon a small red hill with a dark red pipe on it. They went down the pipe, and after falling for what felt like 30 seconds, they hit the ground to discover Bowser standing there, just watching. So the player hit the power button, but then text appeared on the screen. It read, "You wouldn't want to do that, would you?" That's when both Mario and Bowser turned towards the screen, which looked freaky as hell. More text popped up. You want a surprise? Bowser pulled out what can only be described as a portal gun, and all of a sudden, all the player could see was lava. Everything around them looked like lava. It was as if they were hallucinating. That's when they connected the dots. The letters that were on that cartridge, when rearranged, they spelled out the word murder. And at number 3, Super Mario Galaxy. This creepypasta is about a gamer who wanted to play his favorite game, Super Mario Galaxy. It had long been destroyed from wear and tear, so he headed down to his local game shop to see if he could find a copy. Then, something weird happened. As he was walking over, he found a copy of the game sticking out of a trash can. Curious, he picked it up, and thinking he got super lucky, he brought it home. When he put the disc into his Wii to start playing, it was pretty laggy, but eventually got better the more he played over time. Unfortunately though, the game froze on him, with an error that read, "Error. Floating tile exception. If wanted, please send a report to 71773740 at 510047047.com. You guys get it. Just as he was about to take the disc out, a new message popped up on the screen that read, "Enter disk in PC." So he did exactly that. Took it out of the Wii, but put it in his PC. But instead of the game showing up, a folder appeared that read, "Open now." He decided to run a virus check on it, but it came up clean. He then opened the folder, and inside were 5 files. WatchMe.avi, Hey.txt, YouDoNotWantMe.wave, Rain.wave, and Info.txt. He opened up the info text file first. It read, "This disk is just a test," over and over and over again. Then he clicked on the AVI file. It was a video of a deranged man dancing to a song, but rather than a song playing, it was just a bunch of screams. This went on for about 30 seconds. Hey.txt read, "Hey there, you don't know me, but I'm spying on you." The rain wave file was the sound of calming rain. And the last wave file had the audio of someone saying the phrase, "Dispose of me, I am a mess." It repeated multiple times. That's when things took a turn for the worse. Our protagonist heard a knock on his door. Looking through the window next to the door, he saw a mysterious man standing there staring back at him through the window. The protagonist went away, but that's when he heard his front door burst open. The mysterious individual was now inside their home. The protagonist hid, but that didn't help much. In a matter of seconds, he was found, and the last thing he remembers before falling into a deep sleep were a pair of piercing cold eyes that felt like they were burrowing into his soul. And at number 2, the stage play. This creepypasta tells of a story of a gamer playing Super Mario Bros. 3. There was a long-running theory about this game that it was actually all just a stage play, based on the way that the game looked, the curtains that opened at the beginning, and the belief that Mario killing Bowser at the end was all just an act. Years later, Mario creator Miyamoto confirmed this theory to be true. This Mario myth turned fact inspired this creepypasta. So the gamer in this creepypasta dives into the game, deciding to try to beat it in one go. While playing though, she notices a few glitches throughout. Thinking nothing more of it other than it's just, an old ROM that she's running on her computer, she continues, trying her best to ignore it. But after a while, the glitches increase, making it super hard to play at times. Eventually, she manages to get to the end of the game. But in the final moments, when Mario is supposed to kill Bowser, a different character appears. Bowser is no longer there. Rather, it's just a 16-bit character with a yellow shirt and blue jeans. This just so happened to match what she was currently wearing. A little freaked out, she continues to watch the game's final moments as Mario kills this strange figure that resembles her. The second the character dies, she feels chest pain. She feels faint. And then she passes out. When she wakes up in the hospital, she tries to tell her family members and the doctor what happened. They all look at each other, concerned. That's when her sibling tells her something startling. When they found her passed out in front of her computer, there was a note on her screen that read, "I'm watching you," up on her desktop, and there was no sign of Super Mario Bros. 3 at all. And finally, in at number 1, Super Mario 64. This one is fairly well known. It tells the story of a gamer who in their childhood had fond memories of playing Super Mario 64 while at their aunt's house. Years later, as they're watching gameplay footage on YouTube, an ad pops up, and it leads them to a site with a mint condition version of the game for sale. Normally not really seduced by ads like this, they decide to check it out anyway. The site functioned oddly though, with the customers required to transfer the money for their purchase over an address on the website. They buy it and a few days later it arrives in the mail, but they notice that the URL that they purchased it from had completely disappeared. They bust out their old N64 and put the cartridge in and the title screen appears of the game, but immediately something's off. I feel like I've been saying this all video. Static starts to appear and Mario's face weirdly distorts on the title screen, so the player shuts off the system, then turns it back on. This time, things go smoothly, and they start a new game, but the game skips over the intro with Peach's monologue. Instead, it starts off with Mario inside Bowser's castle facing a silent Bowser. There's no music. From there, he starts to explore and weird things keep occurring. He sees disturbing photos of Luigi hung up on walls, images of Mario's corpse scattered around the game's world. He runs into the mad piano who mauls his Mario, and finally he makes his way back to the castle only to find Peach standing there, her mouth gaping wide, and her eyes dead black. His Mario is then engulfed in darkness. When the screen fades back in, he's lost all of his lives and he's on a small secluded island. There is only one thing on that island with him, a sign that reads, "Dive." So, he jumps in the water and does that. But as he's swimming downwards, there's nothing there. No fish. The ocean's empty. After what feels like an eternity, out of nowhere, Unagi the eel appears and eats him whole. The game then fades out. But what fades in scares the player exponentially. It's a photograph of his family. No matter how many times he tries to turn off the system, it just remains on his screen.
We're heading back over to the world of creepypastas today, this time conquering the beloved Nintendo franchise Mario, with a tale called Mario Kart Black. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another creepypasta vid, and with that, let's just jump right in. Uploaded to the fandom website, this creepypasta comes from a 17-year-old girl called Sarah. She describes how she used to live in a happy neighborhood in New Jersey, but that's not the case anymore, and that she also used to have an older brother who cared a lot about her but died 4 years ago. How did he die? What happened? Well, she proceeds to tell us, and it's grisly. It started back in 2009 when it was her older brother's 21st birthday. He received a black Wii console which holds more data than its original white Wii. However, their parents said there weren't any games that came with the console, which the siblings thought was a little odd. So instead, the parents gave them money to buy some, with Sarah going along with her brother to their local GameStop. When they arrived, they hunted through the games, looking at Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, to first-person shooters. Eventually, they stumbled across Mario Kart Wii, which Sarah desperately wanted. However, her brother didn't agree, instead finding a Mario game that was rated M, which they both thought was a little odd considering Nintendo don't make M-rated games. Disregarding the red flags, the pair bought the game anyway, taking it over to the cashier. The game was called Mario Kart Black, and the box art depicted a zombie-looking Mario with his cap caught on fire. At the bottom of the case was a Nintendo logo and the rated M symbol. They checked out the back of the box, but there was nothing but two phrases that said "suicide" and "murder" in big bloody letters. When they gave the cashier the game, he began to shake, like he was scared of what they gave him. Sarah asked if Nintendo really did make the game, causing the cashier to shake even more, stating, "Just take the game, kid, just take it for free," handing it back to them and running towards the employee's room. They headed home, and thankfully their parents were at work, so the two decided to boot up the game, knowing their parents wouldn't be too happy with them purchasing an M-rated game. They inserted the disc, which was blank, with Mario Kart written on it in permanent marker. Sketchy. However, when it loaded, they noticed two strange things. The startup icon for the game was completely black screen, and two, when they touched the icon with the Wiimotes, there was no intro, just a black screen with no music or sounds coming from the game. They pressed start and the game began. The next thing that appeared was another black screen with the text, "Welcome to my world." After that, the game stated, "Now we can have some fun," with disturbing noises coming out of the TV. The statement then ended with the line, "Racing in hell." Laughing noises were added and blood was splattered all over the black screen. It then depicted Mario and Luigi killing each other with knives, cutting each other apart. Above the plumbers was the name of the game, Mario Kart Black, with disturbing music in the background. They assumed it must have been a hacked or modded game and continued on. Sarah was freaked out, believing the game was possessed, but her brother was loving it. When they pressed start on the Wiimote, there was only one mode, single player, no multiplayer, no Nintendo WFC and Mario Kart channel, just single player. They hit single player and the game transitioned to yet another black screen with two options, enter hell or Both options were written in dried blood. Sarah's brother quickly hit enter hell. The game then led them to the character selection screen, with the only character available to play, Mario. They selected him and the game then led them to kart selection, where only the Wild Wing was available. They selected it, then heading to track selection, with the only one available being Suicide. There was also no preview available for the track. A message then appeared on the screen that read, "I'm impressed with you. You really want to come here. You really want it, do you?" Followed by a demonic laugh with images flashing on the screen. One image they could swear was a demonic Mario with missing eyes and blood flowing from his sockets. Then the race began. Sarah and her brother were the only racers on the track, which appeared to be a very foggy dark forest with a pitch black sky. Also, there seemed to be drops of red liquid falling from above. Blood. After 3, 2, 1 go appeared, they started. The music that was playing for the track was the Endless Stairs theme from Super Mario 64, and with every second it got louder and louder. Because of the dense fog, the siblings had no idea where they were going. Then suddenly lightning hit the screen. The pair kept looking for help, with the music progressively getting louder to the point that they couldn't hear anything else. Then something caught the pair's attention. It was a huge pile of smashed up and burned carts, with mangled clothing, guts, internal organs and body parts. The theme tune finally stopped, but then changed to a more distorted version of the game's main menu. After that happened, they were no longer able to control Mario. Mario then began to cry as he drove the Wild Wing alone, going around the pile of bodies as though it was a cutscene, even running over Luigi's head in the process. Then a sign appeared. It read, "Turn back now," in blood red writing, and then Mario just stopped, with tears still in his eyes. The pair were then able to control Mario again, with Jacob stating, "I don't think I would do what the sign says if I were you. Don't you dare turn back, this could be a trap." So Sarah didn't, she just kept driving forwards. As she did, she unleashed the power of hell. Once again they were no longer able to control Mario. He maneuvered the track on his own, this time driving fast, Sonic fast. Lightning hit the screen again and a violent scream was heard. Faintly they could hear someone yelling in a Satan-like voice, "Mario," causing Mario to scream loudly. Sarah's brother then began to yell, "Who was that? Who's there?" The game then faded to black, with a voice responding, "I'll tell you who said that. That was me." A horrible smashing noise was heard and blood began to appear on the screen. Then a demonic voice stated, "Welcome to hell." The game then cut to the cliff players go to when they lose the Grand Prix. Mario was there looking royally up, and seconds later he revved his engine and sped off the cliff, crashing below. The screen then faded to black once again. They tried to turn off the Wii but it didn't work, nor did the TV. They couldn't even open their bedroom door. A message then appeared on the screen. It just said, "Suicide," with it flashing repeatedly. Sarah's brother had had enough by this point, heading to his closet, grabbing a baseball bat and smashing the Wii into tiny pieces. As he did that, the TV shut off. Sarah then noticed a shadow coming. The shadow belonged to Mario. "Finally found you two," he stated. "Now say hello to suicide and murder." They both screamed, with Sarah jumping out of the bedroom window and running, but before she did that, she saw Mario slaughtering her brother brutally with his razor-sharp claws. Sarah ran to the GameStop, hiding in the store. She headed over to the cashier who had served them the first time. He told her that Nintendo did not make that game, stating that he played the game himself and it killed his friends. He stated, "I don't know who really made Mario Kart Black." With that, everyone in the store ran out. Sarah was confused, stating, "Why did everyone leave?" The cashier responded, "Because of a secret I must tell you. They played Mario Kart Black too, and they lost family members and friends when they played it. Such a terrifying game." Sarah headed home after that, discovering that Mario had killed not just her brother but also her parents. She ran to the train station, hopping on a train which took her all the way to Louisiana, which is where she began her new life. Wow, that was intense to say the least. What did you guys think of this creepypasta? Did it spook you? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can tackle another creepy Mario story. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another gaming vid. And until next time, see you later.